You're listening to G Woman Radio, the 24/7 radio for the gifted, genius, and game-changing woman.
Welcome to the G Spot, powered by G Woman Radio. The G Spot is a bold space for genius conversations with global game changers. Each episode of this live radio show brings together thought leaders, innovators, business owners, creators, and change makers for fearless conversations about leadership, legacy, innovation, and global impact. Now welcome your hosts, Alex Okoroji, Frankie Picasso, Swapna Abraham, Clara Rufai, and Mayuri Naidu.
Hey everyone, welcome to the G Spot. And yes, my name is Alex Okoroji, and I am coming to you live from G Woman Radio. Yes, it's another Friday and it's raining here, and honestly I feel like going back to bed, but as always I get a chance to connect with my very special co-host, and I just want to touch base and see where and how everyone else is doing. Frankie, how are you?
I'm great, Alex, and it's raining here. It's an icy rain, which is just horrid, but I'm happy to be here. It makes the sunshine when we're on air together.
I know, right? Well, yes. Swapna, how are you?
Alex, sisters, really happy to be here on our G Spot show, finding my rhythm in life, and I'm really, really thrilled to be here. Lovely.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And Clara, how's
Hi,
it going?
everyone. I'm good. Thank you. So happy to be here today. The weather hasn't changed much here in London, but I'm very happy to be here, waiting to welcome our amazing game-changing guests. I'm coming to you from the G Woman Studios in London.
All right. And Mayuri?
Hello, everybody. I am coming to you live from South Africa, Johannesburg, where it has just gone 7 p.m., but it is 30 degrees, so it is not at all raining, but I'm very, very happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk to our guest.
Well, I'm excited to talk to our guest, and I'm also excited that you all are here and that we can, we get together every Friday to speak with amazing genius game changers. So everyone, wherever you're listening from around the world, welcome to the G Spot. This is where genius meets the global game changer. I'm Alex Okoroji, like I mentioned, and I'm joined by my powerhouse co-hosts, the co-founders of G Woman Media. And today's theme is Beyond the Brand, the rise of women as global media architects, where we explore how women are not just media consumers, but powerful creators and owners redefining global narratives. Frankie?
This is Frankie Picasso coming to you from our studios in Toronto, Canada. Every week we bring you bold conversations with women shifting culture, challenging systems, and creating new legacies.
And all the way from, thank you, Frankie, from Kerala, India, Swapna Abraham over here. Well, today's episode is all about Beyond the Brand, the rise of women as global media architects. And we are super thrilled to welcome a game changer who is blazing trails in her field. Clara?
But before we bring her on, can I just take a moment, as usual, to give a shout out to some amazing women on the power list of our Gutsy edition of the G Woman magazine. Now, over here on the G Spot Show, we love to celebrate fearless women who dare, who defy, and who define our times. Some women follow the rules and then some rewrite them. So this today on today's show. I'm super thrilled to welcome to spotlight two women who have been doing such great work. We're celebrating them because of the work that they do. Their journeys remind us that Guts is owning your voice before the world even validates it. The first woman up in my G Spotlight today, she didn't just host conversations, she transformed them. From talk show host to global media mogul and philanthropist, she built an empire rooted in authenticity, storytelling, and service. Let's spotlight someone you probably know, Oprah Winfrey, for her work in media and philanthropy. Her empire proves that guts is about owning your story and building a platform for others. And over now to our second powerhouse. She could have disappeared after loss and illness, but instead, she rewrote her story, reinventing herself again and again and again. She returned to the stage, not just as a performer, but as a symbol of grit and fire. Let's spotlight Shania Twain for her amazing work in music. She's known as the queen of country pop. She reinvented herself through loss and illness, returning to the stage with unshakable fire. Now, that is what guts looks like, owning your story and rising no matter the chapter. Over now, all the way to South Africa, to my co host, Mayuri.
Thank you, Clara. If you haven't read our latest Top 50 G-Woman Power List in the Gutsy Issue 2025 edition of G-Woman magazine, what are you doing? Head over after the show to www.gwomanmag.com to read all about the amazing, gifted, genius, and game-changing women that are featured. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Mayuri. Thank you for that. I always enjoy listening to Clara's G List because every week we get to learn about some truly amazing, gifted, genius, game-changing women on there. So we'll take a quick commercial break and then we'll bring our guest who's already here in the studio. So don't go away. Just hang in there and we'll be back.
Every era has its turning point, a moment when silence becomes too small for the voices ready to rise. Across continents, across cultures, women are creating, leading, building, and redefining what power looks like. But brilliance needs a platform, courage needs an amplifier, and genius deserves a global stage. Welcome to G-Woman Media, a place where women's stories are not an afterthought, they are the centerpiece. Where diversity isn't decoration, it's our DNA. Where leadership isn't asked for, it is claimed. At G-Woman Media, expression is power. We amplify women's voices, stories, experiences, and ideas to shape culture and inspire change. At G-Woman Media, excellence is our standard. We build high-caliber media platforms, content, and communities that honor the brilliance of women. At G-Woman Media, representation is a right. We create spaces where diverse global women are visible, valued, and celebrated. At G-Woman Media, leadership is feminine. We promote women's leadership, agency, and influence across industries and continents. At G-Woman Media, legacy is built, not given. We empower women to own their platforms, shape their futures, and leave impact-driven legacies. We are the magazine that documents her rise, the radio that carries her voice, the TV that tells her story, and the community that holds her journey. For the global woman, gifted, genius, game changer. This is your space, G-Woman. Your mirror, your megaphone, your movement. The world is listening. Now it's your turn to speak.
Yes, and it's your turn to speak. Welcome back, and wherever you're joining us, don't forget that this is the G Spot, and yes, we're coming to you live on G Woman Radio. So you're listening www.gwomanradio.com, and we're so excited to talk to our guest today. So let's get into it. Now, our guest is Dr. Lisa Funnell. Now, she is an executive communications leader, an award-winning author, educator, and consultant specializing in women, media, and culture. Now, she's internationally recognized as Dr. 007 for her groundbreaking work on the James Bond franchise. Now, she examines how gender, race, and identity are represented and often challenged on screen. Now, with over a decade of experience in higher education and leadership, Dr. Lisa has published 11 books and dozens of articles exploring media, feminism, and of course, equity. Now, her expertise has been featured by CNN, BBC, and the South China Morning Post. And she frequently appears in the media. She also appears in documentaries and podcasts around the world. She's passionate about empowering women's voices and stories. And Dr. Lisa works at the intersection of scholarship, media, and advocacy to reimagine how women's voices show up. Now, she is, as we said this, she also, we're so excited because she's also the director of communications here, at G-Women Media. And a lot of her work, basically, she stands as a go-to voice on power, identity, and representation in media, as we already mentioned. And we're so excited to have you here, Dr. Lisa. How are you?
Hello. I am very excited to be here on a rainy afternoon here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Wow. So it's raining there too. Wow. It's raining here in Maryland, in the United States here in Maryland. And, we're just glad that you're here with us.
Oh, happy to be here. Always happy to chat.
Dr. Lisa, welcome to the G Spot. As my co-host Alex said, we are very happy to have you here on the show. It's very exciting. So we always ask our guests, what is the origin story, the spark that started your journey? When did you become interested in examining women, diversity, and race in media?
That's a good question. So during my undergraduate studies at McMaster University, I was passionate about culture. So I was doing a religious studies minor, and it wasn't that I was interested in the religious precepts per se. I was interested in the culture of religion, that there were people all around the world asking questions about who am I? How do I understand the world around me? How do I understand the good things that happen and the bad things that happen? And they were creating all of these narratives. And I realized 3 years into my undergraduate studies that I could actually study film. So instead of looking at representation of women in religious texts, I could look at the representation of women in film texts. And as somebody who's a fan of visual culture, as someone who is a fan of the action genre, I realized that I could study this genre that was all about the body, how the body looks, how the body acts, how the body reacts. The body is the story. And I became really fascinated with the ways in which women were carving out narrative and heroic space on screen in a genre that was masculine in nature, in a genre that was made by men for men. So, how are these women stepping into the space, creating their own narratives, challenging limitations, and then creating for the rest of us watching these really powerful narratives about women claiming space, claiming their power, and being heroic in nature. So for me, it was that shift from religious studies to visual studies and visual culture. And I spent the rest of my master's degree and my PhD studying women in various cultures, but always looking at the action genre, how women were carving out heroic space.
I love that. That is so cool. Wow. From religion to film.
Who knew, right?
Swapna. Yeah.
If I
Over to you,
may,
Swapna.
Frankie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Lisa, I'm super excited that we even have gotten to know each other as we did. It was just a cold call getting in touch with with this beautiful mix of a personality that you are. Academia, media. And it's like, what are the chances? So let me just get in touch with this person. Will she respond? But there you are. Just authentic and simple and lovely. I'm sure it's never smooth sailing from the start, Dr. Lisa. Sure it wasn't. If anyone's become a firebrand like you, there's got to be a backstory, right? So was there something that kind of was a barrier in your formation? And if there was, and I'm sure there was, how'd you overcome that?
That's a really good question. So when I started studying James Bond, it was at the beginning of scholarly studies of James Bond, and there weren't many women in the field. And
Mm.
I remember going to a conference, and I was not just the only woman on the panel, I was the only woman in the room. And I sat there with this great essay looking at Casino Royale and James Bond being this Bond girl hybrid. It was this new theory that I had. I was so excited about the research, and I sat there being quizzed by the people in the audience on my knowledge of James Bond, as if I had to prove for some reason that I deserved to be there, that I deserved that seat, or that my expertise put into question in ways that the men on the panel were not questioned. And I found that there's always been this little barrier where my fandom of masculine culture, where my studying of women and feminism and gender and geopolitics has been drawn into question. So much so that I actually wrote a paper talking about that you can be a woman and you can be a feminist and you can still like and work on James Bond. And so I found that limiting perceptions of others and this notion of having to prove myself to them has been a huge barrier. And it's to the point where I realized if I'm going to study this, I'm going to make my presence known. I'm not just going to publish one book on James Bond. I'm going to publish a whole bunch. I'm not just going to publish one paper on James Bond. I'm going to spend the last 20 years writing about James Bond until my position in this field is undeniable. That's my reaction to adversity, is not to step away from it, but it's to double down, to triple down, to quadruple down, and just keep digging and digging and digging until my foundation, until my position is firmly in place.
Oof. Gosh, that was solid. Thank you, Dr. Lisa. I knew there had to be something about it. Brilliant. Over to you. Seriously, over to you, Clara.
Super, super excited just listening to you speak, Dr. Lisa. Double down, triple down, quadruple down. We're here for it. We're definitely here for it. Dr. Lisa, it is lovely to have you with us here on the G Spot Show. Do you know, I find your work really both interesting and intriguing, very much so. And so I want to ask you this. As Dr. 007, you've examined one of the most traditionally masculine franchises in cinematic history. What is one myth about women, whether it's in action, power, or leadership roles on screen, that you believe the industry and just audiences generally are still getting wrong? I want to give you a chance to bust that myth today on the show.
So let's take a jackhammer to the idea that the Bond girl is a window dressing, that is a throwaway, one dimensional character. There are so many women across the James Bond franchise who I have found inspiring, who battle against perceptions, who sometimes even rescue James Bond and are heroic in the end. You look at somebody like Dominic Derval in Thunderball 1965, and she is abused by Largo. And at the end of the film, she's the one who actually kills the villain and saves James Bond in the end, changing the trajectory of this heroic narrative that James Bond is on. You have somebody like the women of Octopussy, who are these smart entrepreneurial women who are fighting for their own business investments and goals. And I've always found them really fascinating because they can do gymnastics and they can do martial arts. Absolutely fascinating. And I wanted to be one of the women of Octopussy. You know, you can be what you can see. Or you look at somebody like Michelle Yeoh. I'm a big Michelle Yeoh fan, who not only fights alongside Bond, but she surpasses him in terms of her skills and her abilities, and outfights and outshines him in every scene that they share. Yet in her representation, she refused to be sexualized in the way that typical Bond girls prior to that had been sexualized. There's all these really empowering moments that we need to look at in the time period within which they came out. And you can find value in the representations that you see. Representation, the big myth is that representation needs to be perfect. And sometimes we put women in particular up to a particular standard. We have these expectations that we don't always put on men. We expect women to always be 100% empowering, 100% perfect in their representation, in their advocacy, in terms of equity, and the strides that they take. And that's not the reality of life. And we can find these role models in the women that we see. We don't have to like everything. Like I always say, you know, I can like James Bond and still want more from the franchise. You know, there is a space to be a fan and to be a critic and push forward. You can be patriotic and still believe that your country can do better in terms of, say, equity representation, geopolitics, and so on and so forth, right? It doesn't have to be an all or nothing mentality, but you can find meaning and you can find value in the images and in the models that we have, but we can also push the industry and put out that request that we want something that's a little bit better, that's a little bit different, that that pushes the envelope a little bit more, and that's a better reflection of who we are and what we want to see.
Wow, listening to you speak, it just makes me realize how important this body of work is in terms of, just the different nuances that you're bringing out of this work. And you know what that's doing for me? I am going to actually go back and watch all of the James Bond movies. I promised myself this year I will do that. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to hand over now to Mayuri.
Hello, Dr. Lisa. It's so wonderful to have you on the show and listen to you speak about this. I grew up watching James Bond with my dad, and it's just made me rethink everything we saw and how we as girls growing up just accepted what was on TV when women were sexualized or put in these typecast stereotype of characters. And I am a huge Michelle Yeoh fan, so I really appreciate that. I think I'm going to go back and watch that one in particular. But I know you doubled down when you had to fight harder in the room as a female. And I wanted to know what kind of advice you would give to the next generation of women leaders who are also breaking those barriers and those ceilings.
It wasn't easy. It never is easy to stand out on your own. And I have been afraid to speak up, afraid to speak out, afraid to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. But at the end of the day, I always followed my gut. Your head can mislead you, your heart can mislead you, but your gut is the combination of your head and your heart. And I always relied on my gut to direct me. And I always knew what was right for me. And I also knew what was right for my field. I knew the ways in which I wanted to push the scholarship, helping to carve out and create a gender studies field within the field of James Bond studies. And I've always been supportive and embracing other people who are stepping into that field as well. So my advice is it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to not know, because what we're doing is we're stepping into paths that are not tread already. We're treading these paths on our own, and it's difficult, and it's fearful, and the fear of the unknown, it is real and it's palatable, but it's okay to step forward. The second thing is to look and reach out, even if it's a simple um, LinkedIn network connection, right? Reach out to other women who you see, who you admire. I've always said the success of other women has never been a threat to me. It's been a point of inspiration, right? Reach out to other women, have these conversations, connect with us here at G Woman Media, join our collective. You can be put into connection with many exceptional women that way, and find that there's strength in numbers, that we all have our own individual stories. I'm sure everybody here on this call has had their own challenges and limitations and struggles, and we have all individually found our ways to overcome. But there's such solace that you can find when you hear other people, what they've gone through and the steps that they've taken, and little points of inspiration that can keep you going, to keep your fire burning. So I guess my comments are, it's okay to be afraid and to reach out to other women for support.
That is wonderful to hear, and so aligned with G Woman Media, as you said, Dr. Lisa. We're all about that collaboration and finding points of inspiration. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to head on over to Alex. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Mayuri. And, it's pretty interesting just listening to how Dr. Lisser has come to sort of work in this field, and how very diverse, obviously, your experience is. As an actor myself, when I started my career, I had this dream of being a Bond girl, which is kind of weird. And people thought it was such a lofty dream, like, oh my God, you're going to be a Bond, like how? Anyway, just listening to you and a lot of the work that you do as, specializing in media representation and, strategic storytelling, reputation, and inclusive communication, because that's important, right? How, we always ask what your G-spot moment is. And for us, that is that game-changing moment in your lives, something that happened that is suddenly clicked for you. Because I know that you've already shared with us, how, just how you started the work that you're doing. But I'm sure there is something that happened that allowed you to sort of realize that, man, I'm built for this. This is the path. This is where I need to stick with. So can you share any, something that happened, that moment in time when you realized this was your G-spot moment?
don't know if it was a moment per se, but I found I always loved going to school. So I love to learn, and it clicked for me like in grade 4 when I had a teacher who pulled me aside and said, "Find your way to your own knowledge." So Mr. Antojek, thank you very much. Grade 4 put me on my academic path. Shout out to Mr. Antojek. But I've always been passionate about learning. And the one thing that I found when I was going to university is I'd look around and I saw people wanting to become, say, medical doctors and fighting for that. And I said to myself, what I want more than anything else is to want something that's worth fighting for. And I don't know the exact moment when it happened, but I fight through my work. I want to. It's so weird because like I always say, like, I don't care if anybody reads my work. Like I'll tell you what it's about. You don't have to go buy my book, right? Like it's not about the money for me. But there's so much perseverance, and I look at all of my work, and through breakups, through divorces, through health care scares, it's always been my work that has pulled me through. It's being able to find myself and create my identity and put forward fight through the work that I do. So it's for me, it's so vocational. It's not just about analyzing and talking about representation and talking about equity. It's about me fighting for it through the work that I do and wanting to want something so badly that you're willing to make the sacrifices, put in the time, sit at the computer. I remember I finished my book, Geographies, Genders, and Geopolitics. I wrote the first draft in 6 weeks, which is ridiculous, right? And I remember my stomach was in so much pain that I couldn't actually, from the tension of writing so long, that I couldn't actually sit down. I had to go for walks every day for about 2 months before I went back to working on that book. That's how deeply immersive my work is. And for me, it's that fire, it's that gut passion. And it's the fact that I've found ways to kindle that fire. And it might not bring me money, and it might not bring me fame, and it might not bring, again, if nobody reads my work, then nobody reads my work. But my work is so deeply personal. It's something that I'm doing for me, and it's something that I have found so much value in. So again, thank you to Mr. Antoshek for teaching me how to find my way to the knowledge, because it's that one skill in grade 4 that really pushed me to find my passion and find my vocation.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Lisa, and thank you to isn't it amazing to have teachers who really encourage us to find that part. And I love that you're sharing about how much dedication and fire and passion that has sort of supported you or driven you to get to do the work that you do, because I think many times we just think about the result, the output, and not the process, not the journey. And although you say, even if nobody reads the book, and even if you don't, get fame and all of that, because you're getting all these awards, right, for the work that you do. So that shows that people are reading the book, right? They're appreciating the work that you're doing, and you're getting a lot of this, you're getting some attention, obviously, and you're inspiring us, right? You're inspiring us to look deeply at some of these work of art, because sometimes we just sort of go through art almost like, entertainment, right? You just enjoy it, but without really critically looking at what's in it, and just all of the nuances that are there, and that you obviously call our attention to. So we appreciate that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back for our roundtable discussion. Don't go away.
Are you a gifted, genius, and game-changing woman looking for your tribe? This is your moment. Introducing the G-Woman Collective, a powerful new global hub where women who lead, build, create, and innovate come together to rise. Founded on the premise that women's collective voices hold boundless power. At the heart of our mission lies a powerful purpose: to ignite global visibility and momentum for women everywhere. Whether in boardrooms or broadcasting, the mission is simple: make women seen, heard, and unstoppable. Join thousands of women across continents in a vibrant digital epicenter that's redefining community, collaboration, and visibility. From private forums and global networking to live sessions, masterminds, mentorships, and exclusive media features, including access to our sub-collectives. This is not your average membership. This is your seat at the table. Become a G-Woman ally, G-Woman champion, or G-Woman vanguard, and step into a space designed to amplify your voice, fuel your mission, and elevate your legacy. Sign up now at gwomancollective.com and let's rise together. G-Woman Collective, where gifted, genius, and game-changing women belong.
Okay, we're back. Wherever you're tuning in from around the world, this is the G Spot. And yes, you're listening to us live on G Women Radio. And just before we went on that commercial break, we were talking to our very special guest, Dr. Lisa Funnell, who's joining us all the way from Canada. And so it's time for our G Talk Roundtable. Over to you, Frankie.
Dr. Lisa, my question for you for the roundtable is, many Bond women were written as highly skilled professionals like pilots, scientists, and names like Puzzler, Holly Goodhead, and Miss Good Thighs. Do you think that these names were intentionally used to undercut their authority and make powerful women feel less than threatening, or were they meant as a playful satire of the era?
Yes. They were meant to undercut professional women. James Bond is the central character. He's defined by all of the people around him, and having somebody who is a fellow agent called, Agent Triple X, or Dr. Holly Goodhead, or Pussy Galore. These names are meant to tear down women in the professional context, in order to reduce some of the seriousness that we're taking them. And then, of course, James Bond is the one who gets to laugh, not with them, but he gets to laugh at them when he hears their names. And we as the audience are encouraged to laugh along with James Bond. So we're laughing at these women. We're not necessarily laughing with them. And so it is a strategy to undercut professional women, just like we refer to the women of the franchise as Bond girls, but we don't refer to the men of the franchise as Bond boys. We refer to them as the men of James Bond, or we refer to him as James Bond as Bond, but we refer to women by their first names, showing that they are connected to James Bond romantically. Yet in a professional context, if you were to refer to a man as Dr. Smith, but you were to refer to me as just Lisa, there would be some gender equity issues at play, some disrespect that's going on. So there's all these naming strategies that are happening in the James Bond franchise that are effectively used to cut women down just half a step in order to push James Bond up. And they're problematic. And it's something, even as a scholar, anybody who writes in one of my collections, we refer to the women and the men by their last names, regardless of how common the first names are for the women. For me, it's just a way of leveling that playing field in a scholarly avenue. And as a way of rating what I perceive as being wrong conventions of the franchise.
Did it change with Vesper? Did it change with,
in terms of women's representation?
Yes.
I think that Vesper Lind and Camille Montes, who comes in the film after that, Quantum of Solace, are two very strong, well-rounded women who are emotionally capable. And it's always interesting that people go to Vesper, because if you look at someone like Camille, who comes in the next film, she doesn't have a romantic relationship with James Bond. They are completely platonic. Bond cannot have a relationship because he's still hung up on Vesper Lind. And so the two part ways at the end without any romance happening. And that hasn't happened in a James Bond film up to that point. And so you have this really strong representation of two women in the early Craig franchise that I think shifts the speedometer, shifts the lever a little bit over. But then we have to look at the women who come in the films afterwards. And I think Skyfall has some regressive representations of women. Someone like Severine, who in my opinion is one of the most disenfranchised women, who's literally discarded from the film in a way that sometimes when I was teaching that film, my students didn't even know that she died. Like, that's how her death scene came across. I didn't realize she was shot in the head as she was used for target practice, right? So I think it depends on what film you're looking at, but I do think Vesperlin and Camille Montez are really strong representations.
What about M? Like, she seems to be respected.
Absolutely. And I think having Judi Dench as M, if you're going to have Judi Dench play anything, you're going to have to make that character of M be stronger, and have her in her own way. So across the Brosnan era, you can see her fighting the sexism that's in the workplace. The fact that she's called a bean counter, people call her the evil queen of numbers. All of these negative representations, and yet she comes right back and she says to Bond the first time she meets him, "You're a sexist, misogynistic dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War." And
Good for
just
her.
like that on
So
my
Ian Fleming
tombstone,
realized that.
like, and so she's somebody who definitely can fight back against, and she's put in this place where she's going to fight for her agents, but she also has a whole bunch of bureaucracy that she has to deal with. And so I think that was probably one of the best and most positive evolutions of a character that I have seen. And then, of course, she becomes very maternal and very caring towards Daniel Craig's James Bond as the one who's constantly guiding his compass back to being an agent. So when Vesper Lind is killed, sorry for the spoiler for a 2006 movie, she basically says, but she did it because she loved you. Like, you shouldn't let this be so harsh on you. You shouldn't let it make you so cold. And she's always this voice of reason and that compass for Daniel Craig's James Bond. And it's interesting to see that and how that one is fleshed out over that era.
That's really. Does anybody else have another? Because I do have another question. But if somebody wants to go ahead.
I
I,
actually
I
wanted to
just
ask Dr. Lisa. Oh, do you want to go, Clara? Okay, I wanted to ask Dr. Lisa. So you spoke about representation earlier on, and I wanted to know how you think the franchise can offer genuine representation for women of color rather than just these disposable roles that you speak of.
I think that's a really good question. And I think it depends on the type of character and the level of character. So, lead characters are treated in one respect, and secondary and supportive characters, sometimes named, sometimes not named, are oftentimes treated in a different way. And there's a distinctive colonial lens that is utilized that has historically valued white women, white European women, white Anglo-American women, just trying to reframe that in a different light than it has women of color and women from various nationalities. And so the way through which we can start to have more authentic representations is to make sure that our writing room includes people from various backgrounds and nationalities and genders, that it's not just the same two people, the same two white men, writing narrative after narrative after narrative, and then maybe bringing somebody into spot shot, um, the script after the fact, making sure that we actually do consultation to the cultures within which we are referencing. That seems to be a better way or at least a way of ensuring that different voices and different perspectives are actually being represented in a way that is authentic. You can't authentically represent people that you don't actually speak to. Um, and so I think having the writer's room be a little bit more diverse, having the creative team behind the scenes, and this is even before the casting happens, right? Having the creative team behind the scenes be diverse. All of that really, really matters. And then actually having this be a goal and an objective when you are casting and when you are creating the narrative, right? Making sure that the consideration of the colonial lens is something that is being represented. Because the Bond films provide us with a fantasy legacy representation of where Britain should would be. It's not necessarily an accurate representation of where it actually is. And so you have this narrative of nation and patriotism and geopolitics in a world that in reality looks a lot different. And so how then do we reframe this historical narrative? And it's going to take, new eras coming out, new Bonds coming out, new creative talent coming out, and pushing the franchise forward.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Lisa. I think that that's such a great and important thing to say about diversity, even in speaking as an actor myself, in the writing room is where it all starts. So thank you so much for saying that. Over to you,
yeah.
Alex.
Yeah, just before we go take a quick commercial break, I was going to ask you this, Lisa, because just away a little bit from the James Bond franchise and to the work that you do now, not the work that you do now, but the work you also do with G-Woman Media. And what do you think that we can learn, right? What do you think that we can learn? Where are these gaps that you think that G-Woman Media as a company can, obviously we're very inclusive, we're representing different regions and all of that. And we want every woman's voice, to be captured and represented. But what do you think, just with the work that you've done and the work that you're doing now, what do you think that we can do better or best to capture, to fill in that gap? I would say.
I feel like G Women Media is filling that gap. I think from the structure of the founders, from having 100 women investing, from having a collective, I feel like the foundation, the roots are definitely there. For me, it's about having courage to stay the course. That is the hardest thing because there's always going to be companies that are going to want to swoop up G Women Media. There's so many different influences that come from the outside, but maintaining and staying the course, having that clear vision for where we are going and what we plan on doing and where we want to take this company. I don't want to say be insular because that's not what I mean, but make sure that the vision that is so inspirational to people like myself, to the people who are a part of this panel, to the other women who come onto the G Spot, it's all resonating with us. It's the vibration of the company that it's the frequency of the vibration that is sort of aligning with our souls. And so I don't want to change that frequency. I think that frequency needs to stay moving forward as we move forward with the business at hand. So it's not a critique, it's more of a stay the course comment. And that's something that's hard to do. It's hard to maintain momentum.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And we'll take a quick commercial break and we'll be back. Don't go anywhere, listeners.
Are you looking for a unique gift for baby showers, bedtime songs, fun time songs, and songs that teach lessons? Family road trip songs the whole family will enjoy. Songs that will trigger young imaginations, nurture and educate your children, but adults will enjoy too? Then choose a Children's Song a Day book. This extraordinary book experience contains 1,000 songs in 5 volumes that will delight children age 4 through 12, along with eye-popping illustrations and lyrics. Each song can be downloaded via a QR code on each page in 2 versions, one with full song, the other for a karaoke experience. Lyrics, melody, and singing are the creation and talent by Dr. Swapna Abraham, who embarked on a 1,000-day journey setting 4 world records in singing songwriting by the Golden Book of World Records. Each song is crafted for children to inspire dreams and explore life's wonders. They're available now on any Amazon near you, so get yours now and start singing.
It makes me want to frown.
Okay, we're back, and this is still the G Spot. And you're listening to us live on G-Woman Radio, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Don't forget that you also can be part of this conversation. If you're listening, remember that you can click the chat button so you can, contribute, ask your questions. If you've got questions for Dr. Lisa Funnell, our guest who's here on the show, and one that we're so proud of because she's a great representative of G-Woman Media, and she does amazing work on her own and has been truly impactful in our contributing to the voices of women and representation of women in media. So yes, it's time for our G Spotlight segment. Swapna, over to you.
Thank you, Alex. Dr. Lisa, now it's time for our G Spotlight moment. What would be a bold insight that you can share from your experience working with people to find their purpose? Being an educator especially, you surely have something that, of all the wisdom that you have, by the way, what would be a bold insight that you can share from your experience working with them?
was that aha moment. I lived for the aha moment. When you're sitting there in a class, you're having these conversations with your students, and suddenly it clicks for them where they get it. And then they say something that just it's an aha moment where you're just like, whoa, where did this come from? Where they dug in deep inside, they found that passion, where their mind, their heart, their gut, everything connected in the right way, and everything just kind of connects and it works, and they can feel it, and you can feel it. Those are the aha moments that I want every woman to find for themselves, where you can sit there and it just kind of works. You don't have to think too hard about it. You don't have to push too hard for it. It just works. And then that becomes your compass pushing you forward, and moving things past traditional boundaries. So I guess for me, it's the aha moment.
Wow, I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Dr. Lisa. That's very powerful. Brilliant. Clara.
All right. So it's another reminder, if you're listening to us, you can definitely get involved in the conversation. We're having a great time. I'm here in London having a great time listening to our guests. And you know what? What I'm hearing is that, it isn't, purpose isn't something we stumble upon, because if you listen to Dr. Lisa's story, you'll know that this is something, it's almost like she's doing the work she was created for. So this is a great opportunity. Again, if you're listening to us, do get involved. Would love to hear from you. Drop your comments in the chat box and let's hear your bit.
Thank you very much, Clara. I hope all my South Africans are also tuning into the G Spot. Dr. Lisa, I have a question for you. So you have spent years reading the hidden language of media, the silence, the symbols, the power beneath the image. So when women begin to rewrite the story, what do you think changes first? Is it the narrative, the gaze, or the very imagination of what a woman can be?
I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those things, and it might be different for each woman. I think rewriting a narrative is about finding your own voice, your own words. And I was thinking about this earlier today about like what it means to be a G woman, right? Gifted, genius, game changing, right? Claiming space, building legacy. But the one thing that got me was that the G woman was not contained by traditional systems. She's stepping outside of traditional systems. And then I thought of the word G woman. She couldn't even be contained by language. We had to create a word for her, right? She can't be contained by structures that were not made by or for her. And so I think that when it comes to rewriting narratives, it's about no longer being contained. And that can manifest in many different ways. Whatever sparks it and whatever starts it, whether it's narrative, whether it's gaze, whether it's imagery, whatever that personal process is for you, I think that's important and probably individual or individual-esque. But it's about realizing that we have these structures that were set in place, and we've got these languages and a system that's been set in place, and it was not necessarily made by us or for us. And it's okay to recognize. It's like Neo in the Matrix, right? From the Matrix series, when he finally figures out the ones and the zeros and he sees through it, and then he realizes, oh look, I can just move my arm this way and I can play the game, or I can circumvent the system and I can go in and do things that nobody else has done. I am the one. Recognizing that we can be the one, um, to be able to step forward, and do these exceptional things, but also recognizing that exceptionality comes in many different various uh, uh, forms and functions, and we just don't have to be contained by the structures and the narratives that people have put forward. And that's why it's so important that women tell their own stories from their own terms. I always love to create language and terminology. That's the best thing. It's a nerd fact when it comes to academia, but like sometimes I just create words because we just don't have a word that can work for what's being represented, right? Like told me that I couldn't use this word and it got published. So I guess it is actually a word now, right? It's about challenging systems and language systems, representational
Mm,
systems, and seeing how you feel about doing it and seeing how far you can get. Use it as a game. Games have structures and storyboards, and there's rules and there's barriers, but once you learn how to play it, you can learn how to overcome it. You can find achievements. You can go beyond the limits of the screen, and you can do some pretty amazing things. So I hope my message is more of like you can be empowered to do all three things. Um, and you can move your story forward, but where it starts and how the process happens, all the power to you if it's any one of those three.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa. That's wonderful. And amen to that. Over to you, Alex.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And, that was amazing that you talk about, the G woman and obviously underscores who we're for and of our goals. But here's what, time runs by so fast when you're having fun. Oh my goodness. And I know we don't have much time left, but we're going to take a quick musical break and then we'll come back for our mic drop moment.
What are you waiting for? What kind of invitation do you need? If I invited you, how would you RSVP? I might be there, but I can't be sure. Don't know what's outside my front door. Oh yes, I'm coming. You can count me in. I'll bring the party. 'Cause you can dance all night, dance if you want. I'm doing your own thing, not a care in the world. Dance all night, dance if you want. I'm making your own rules. You got nothing to prove. Who are you waiting for? Who do you hope is gonna set you free? If I came up to you, how would you react to me? I wish I could, but I'm just not sure. Don't want my heart left on the floor. Oh yes, I'm coming. You can count me in. Where is this party? 'Cause you can dance all night, dance if you want. I'm doing your own thing, not a care in the world. Dance all night, dance if you want. I'm making your own rules. You got nothing to prove.
Okay, and that was RSVP by Daniel Taylor. Well, wherever you're listening from around the world, this is still the G Spot, and you're listening to us live on G Women Radio. We've been having so much fun with our very special game changer, Dr. Lisa Funnell, who's been throwing it down here live on the show. Okay, ladies, it's time for our mic drop moment, and over to you, Frankie.
Thank you, Alex. My drop mic moment is my reaction to adversity is to double down, triple down, quadruple down until my position is firmly in place. Love that, Lisa.
Yes. And you, Swapna?
I fear for Mayuri because by the time it's going to go to hell, all the drops are over. But you just watch and she's going to get it. For me, my mic drop moment, and thank you, Dr. Lisa, for that. You can be what you can see. I love that. Thank you.
Yes, Clara.
Okay. First of all, thanks, Dr. Lisa, because you gave us so many mic drop moments. So Frankie stole my first one, but I'm going to go with this one. God bless your teacher, the one who said, find your way to your own knowledge. And I would like to add and defend it through your work. That's how women stop asking for space in their story and they start writing their stories themselves. So thank you.
Amazing. Mayuri.
Thank you, Swapna, for the sympathy. I appreciate it. But Dr. Lisa, you really have had so many mic drop moments. But I think the thing that really stuck out for me is not what you said, but how much passion you truly have for this. This is more than just a profession or a career for you. It's a calling. And it's just so inspirational to hear you talk about it. I just want to delve into your brain more and more. And I also liked it when you said we can just create words. Why can't we just? Because we've never done this before. Women are stepping into places we've never been before. So let's just create the words for it. I loved that.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Mayuri. And you all have said, why is it that when it comes to me, I have nothing to share? Well, I think what stood out for me was when she talked about, how representation doesn't have to be perfect for it to be meaningful. And you also highlighted how it's possible to be a fan and still be a critique, right? Meaning that there's space for both. And you talked about how one can be patriotic and still require more. And that's true. So when we, the work that we're doing, we have to make space for the and, not the or, meaning you don't have to be one or the other. You can have both. And that's why even as we're doing the work that we're doing with G Women Media, we also want to learn how we can, create more space, do better, and, continue to include as many voices as we can. So just before we wrap this up, I know we only have 4 minutes left till we get off air. Any final words for us, are just something that the women of the world who are listening to you right now and will catch the replay, that they can take away from this conversation with you, Dr. Lisa?
Oh, goodness. That's a lot of pressure. You can be empowered. That's my message. Like, empowerment is an active term. And you can be empowered by making little small steps, whether it's steps for your own identity, steps in your community, steps at the workplace. Even the smallest step is a step towards empowerment. And reach out to other women and be inspired and see the ideas that they have and what they're doing and go and riff off of those ideas. And we can all move the project of equity forward if we do it together.
Absolutely. Truly appreciate you sharing that. And yes, we can all move things forward if we do it together. And that's why we believe in what we're doing with G Women Media, because it's about collective effort, collective, shared responsibility, shared ownership, shared leadership, and the voice is the power of the collective. So over to you, our listeners. Thank you for listening to our show. Don't forget to follow us online at G Women Media. We're G Women Media everywhere. And don't forget that you can tag us in your thoughts with hashtag #GSpotRadio. And yes, you can leave some comments for our very special guest, Dr. Lisa Funnell, if there was something that she said that resonated with you and that you think you'd like to share. Now, you can catch the replay on gwomenradio.com or wherever else you get your podcasts. So until next time, stay genius. Stay
game changing.
Stay game changing, ladies.
You're tuned into G Woman Radio for the global woman, gifted, genius, game changer,